What's up, guys? So we're going over Sales God now. So I don't have actual access to the Sales God course, but what I do have is access to the Power Influence modules. He's allowing us to go through a couple of his older modules from a course that wasn't specific on sales, but taught influence. And we all know that influence is a big thing in sales. It allows people to take action. It allows people to listen to you and see you as a person of authority. That leads me to go ahead and talk about the three power influence positioning components. So we're going to be covering module 1, power positioning yourself as an instant expert. So the first power influence positioning component is authority. So authority, what is authority? So the best way to describe authority is mindless obedience, because if you're getting pulled over by a police officer, you're not going to go ahead and stop. I mean, you're not going to go ahead and keep going and be like, oh, I have a date, I have some stuff to do, it's okay. No, you're going to pull the heck over because, well, you're taught that from a young childhood. You're taught to mindlessly obey the police and certain people of authority, teachers, adults, things like that. So ever since so to give a little bit more context behind that and what authority is that it allows people, systems, or structures to enforce rules, make decisions, and get automatic compliance. So piggybacking back to the Jay-Z and homeless guy I talked about in higher status. I mean, what was the biggest difference between them two? It was the positioning that Jay-Z came into the bar with, just because he obviously was displaying status, but also everybody knows Jay-Z. Just from that alone, he displays another one of the power influence positioning components, which I'll just go ahead and cover all three. So there's three of them: authority, high status, and celebrity. So obviously he displayed all three. I'm not going to go too much into what 2 and 3 are, but that's what Jay-Z was all displaying at once. So just by being able to display authority overall, he was automatically able to get compliance without having to really do anything. Just because you see Jay-Z coming in, he's got the entourage behind him. He's got his girl on his right, his girl on his left. He had 99 problems, but bitch wasn't one of them, as Jason Capital would say. So, I mean, why do people do this? Why do people automatically just listen to authority? Why are they mindlessly obedient? So we're dropped into a world where from breath number 1, we are taught and conditioned that obedience to proper authority is right and disobedience is wrong. Let's cover the first story in the Bible. So what was covered in the first story in the Bible? I'll use my fiance as an example. Yeah. Yeah, Adam and Eve. So what did Eve do? What did she do? And she disobeyed him. Yeah, so the first story that they talk about in the Bible, the best way to summarize it is either obey me and you'll live in paradise, but disobey me and you're fucked. So the first story in the Bible, it's kind of interesting. It's basically God. I'm not too much into religion, but going into this from the perspective of this, you can see how the Bible is structured to automatically get compliance. Especially, Jason Capital talked about this because he's Jewish. I mean, when he was a young boy going to, I'm not too sure what he did exactly, but I know that at a certain age, you're supposed to go and do something. And essentially what he was told is just that you have to obey, you have to listen, because if you don't do this, then God will kick you out of the family and you'll be on your own. And that scares a kid. So this kid, he's like, I mean, I don't want to be left on my own. I can't feed. I can't do this. So from a young age, we're taught to mindlessly obey parents and obey certain people of authority. And we can't do anything about that because that's just how we are raised. So first story in the Bible covers that. And it literally prefaces the entire Bible as in, if you don't listen to me, you're screwed. But if you do, you'll live in paradise. So the same thing goes for your parents. Obey me, listen to me, we won't have any problems. But if you disobey me, then you're going to go in punishment. You're going to do this, X, Y, and Z. So that's how authority is implemented into society nowadays and how it's honestly, to an extent, being abused. So heuristics are mental shortcuts in which not reacting, not thinking, and letting someone make all of your decisions and handle your problems so that you can catch up with the Kardashians. So heuristics, they're mental shortcuts in which not reacting and not thinking let not reacting, not thinking, and letting someone make all of your decisions and handle all of your problems. So for example, your parents. So you're going to listen to them, but they'll make all of the decisions for you, and you'll respect them and you'll comply with them. So the biggest problem with that is when authority makes an error, when your parents mess up, when something's wrong. For example, Jason Capital talked about flight simulators. So with flight simulators, what they do is they'll have the pilot and they'll have the co-pilot. Now, the job of the pilot is to crash the plane. Like he's actually meant to crash the plane. But what's the purpose of the co-pilot is he's not supposed to tell the pilot what to do. He's just supposed to be there to assist. But they could directly see that 25% of the people let the plane crash. 75% didn't, but that still is a big factor. They could tell the plane's going to crash, but the authority within that captain of the pilot is so strong that they're not even going to say anything. So you can see how authority can become a problem when you see your parents messing up. You can't really call them out. I know from my experience, I sure as hell would never call out my dad because it would be the last day on earth for me. And she knows that. So it's scary how authority can be abused, and it's not their fault necessarily as much as it is how society's just changed over time with authority from parent to parent to parent and from generation to generation. So naturally, people who have authority are more attractive, respected, and happier. So Jay-Z, getting back into it, automatically attractive, even though Jay-Z is not the prettiest guy. We all know this. He is not pretty at all, or even doesn't look that human to me, but he has Beyonce by his hip. So it goes to show that between authority and also displaying status, celebrity, and all these other triggers, that it's more than just how you look, because you're automatically going to be seen as someone of attraction because they don't see everyday people like that. You're different. You stand out compared to all these people who are just gliding by nowadays, just sipping on their Starbucks, going to their job, and coming back home to have an average dinner, to sit down with an average family, and to maybe occasionally have some average sex, and then have an average night's sleep to get up and do it again. So think about the laws of society that you will follow without. Think about the laws of society that you follow without. So yeah, piggybacking off this, think about the laws of society that you follow without thinking about it. When you go into a Starbucks or any fast food restaurant, you'll tell that they have, you can't go past a certain section because it's staff doors. Going into hotels, staff only. Don't go past the red line, don't go past the tape, cones, stop signs, things like that. We mindlessly obey them and we stop because that's how we've been conditioned from a young kid to even as an adult to respect those things of authority, even though it's just a couple of mere words. So what we're going to focus on is understanding authority in the next couple sections, because for number one, you have to understand what authority is so that when you do something or comply with someone's request, you're doing it not because you mindlessly obey them, but you're doing it because it aligns with our goals. So for me, one thing that I'm going to start implementing that Jason Capital talked about is when I'm going out to dinner with my fiance and they say, hey, we have this table available, I'm going to say, no, I want a different table. Because what's happening is that the waiter is telling you this is where you're going to sit. This is a small thing, but it really carries out how you're not going to let someone's authority, if it doesn't align with your goals, control you. And that's just how you come up with more influence, and that's what higher status is. You're not just going to comply with other people if it doesn't align with your goals, because that's not what you are about. You're only going to align yourself with people who you look up to, will take you places, or on your same level, not beneath you, or people who are just going to honestly cause problems. And the second thing that we want to understand about authority is we want to understand that authority so that everyone says yes to us as much as possible, as I messed up the words here. So yeah, we want to understand authority so everyone says yes to us as many times as possible. And basically what we're doing is our words right now, my words still, they're kind of like BBs. They're like a BB gun, maybe an airsoft gun, maybe getting a little bit better. But when you can come up to the level of getting your words to be an AK-47, to where one word penetrates and goes straight through and hits that person, and you can influence them to say yes and do exactly what you want, to not abuse it, obviously, with like some dumb people do. then that's when you will understand what authority is. So you have to understand what authority is, and that's what we will be covering in the next couple modules. So that wraps it up for this, guys. Last note I'm going to leave it on, just like Jason Capital said, is what is the one thing that you have used authority for in your sex life, business, or personal life? So go ahead and write that question down. What have you used authority in? Is it in your sex life, business, or personal life? Whatever it might be, list that down and figure out, so how have I used this before? What I just talked about, how did I use authority to undermine or do whatever it is that you've done? So in the next module, we'll be decoding authority. We'll be actually going over the second power positioning influence component, which will be very short. So we'll be covering that in a second, and I will see you guys then. This was fantastic. So looking forward to the next one.